Marvel's New God, the man who outsmarted the Avengers. Like, share, and subscribe. Episode 41. Ding. The host witnessed the Battle of the Black Phoenix, felt something, and burst out against the sky. Ding. Congratulations to the host awakening ability, the power of the Phoenix. The system prompt sounded quietly. Lin Fan, who stood silently in the void, lit up in front of his eyes, and secretly rejoiced. Phoenix power? Could it be? The power of the Phoenix was born at the beginning of chaos. It is said to originate from the beginning of all things, born immortal, eternal and impermanent, linking the spiritual mind of all things in the multiverse. But anyone who can control the power of the Phoenix can dominate the infinite multiverse with a wave of his hand. And Jean Grey even used the power of the Phoenix to kill the entire X-Men world. Of course, in different multiverses, the setting of the power of the Phoenix is also very different, so Lin Fan is not sure which version he awakened. It's just that there is no doubt that the power of the Phoenix is definitely a very terrifying ability. Perhaps only the Scarlet Witch Wanda can compare. This surprise was really caught off guard. Secretly I clenched my fist, and Lin Fan could sense the power of the Phoenix in his body. It was a golden flame seed shining with aura. When the seed blossoms and bears fruit, it is the moment when he controls the power of the Phoenix and becomes the child of the universe. And before that, even the initial Phoenix power can burst out terrifying destructive power. And the power of the Phoenix also has the property of mutual attraction. Phoenix and Phoenix are a natural pair. At this time, the Qin, which was dominated by the power of the Phoenix, suddenly had a huge attraction, which was a throbbing from the depths of the soul. If he can absorb Qin's Phoenix power, he may be able to strengthen his power seed. Buzz. Boom. Just when Lin Fan looked at Qin, the other party was also looking at him. Even the piano is directly a fire fist. Feeling the same kind of aura emanating from Lin Fan's body, Qin also gave birth to a primitive impulse, wanting to devour Lin Fan and strengthen himself. With the blessing of the power of the Phoenix, Qin came to Lin Fan's proximity in an instant. A fire fist wrapped in a blazing high temperature struck. Not good. Lin Fan, be careful. Professor X and the others in the distance saw this, their expressions changed greatly. Scott wasn't worried. The Storm Girl and the others were shocked, and they didn't even react, so they could only watch this scene. But Professor X was anxious. He was well aware of Qin's horror now, and he knew that Lin Fan could not be underestimated. The battle between the two was definitely not what he wanted to see. As a person with good intentions, no matter who wins or loses in the end, he will feel very sad. But with his current strength, it is not even too late to come to the rescue. Just because Lin Fan and Qin's strength is even stronger than him. Oh, what a hot girl. I don't know everyone's mood, but Lin Fan is indifferent. He did not have the slightest urgency of being sneaked in. On the contrary, looking at Qin Galay in front of him, the corners of his mouth slightly raised teasing, as if he saw his prey take the initiative to send it to the door. The death prediction was quietly activated, and Lin Fan instantly learned everything in the next 10 seconds. This ability to predict the future makes him unfavorable. Buzz. Lin Fan's heart moved, and the invisible magnetic field overlapped repeatedly. Oncoming fists smashed down. With an earth-shattering noise, Jean Grey's body shook, and the flames wrapped in her fists burst into flames. The power of the Phoenix frantically eroded the invisible magnetic field, wanting to devour Lin Fan completely. And Jean Grey's face showed bloodthirsty sickness. Jean Grey, who was dominated by the power of the Phoenix, was no longer herself at this time, and it was more appropriate to call it a Black Phoenix. It was precisely because of this that Lin Fan made a move without the slightest mercy. It is simply impossible to pity Xiang Xiang and cherish Jade. Women will only affect him to become stronger. Looking at the crazy and demonic Jean Grey, Lin Fan struck again, controlling the magnetic field to seal it in. The magnetic field quietly overlapped thousands of times, turning into an invisible cage. Jean Grey sensed danger and wanted to travel thousands of miles. But as soon as she retracted her fist and rushed out, the whole person directly hit the magnetic field barrier, flying out upside down like a kite with a broken line. But in an instant, she steadied her figure and looked directly at Lin Fan with eyes full of killing intent. Lin Fan, on the other hand, looked at him calmly. Die. The next moment, Jean Grey struck again. The power of the Phoenix surged wildly. The power that had been sealed for more than 10 years all erupted at this moment, causing the sky to burst into flames. The terrifying vision shrouded a radius of 10,000 meters, surprising countless people. But Professor X and others deeply felt the danger. Even Lin Fan's condensed magnetic field cage was disintegrated layer by layer under the burning of the Phoenix power, and it was about to be completely broken. But Lin Fan had already foreseen the future situation. How could he let Qin Galay get out of trouble? You know, he's not doing this for fun. Since the power of the Phoenix can devour each other, there are such good tool people at this time, and he will not miss anything. and can make Jean Grey recover, and in the end people have to thank him. Yikes. The figure flashed, and Lin Fan rushed over. Jean Grey slapped out a palm. The power of the phoenix turned into a firebird hissing up to the sky, and the blood basin swallowed heavily, and directly bit towards Lin Fan. But Lin Fan did not dodge, and also summoned his own flame seed. Then he slapped a palm directly at Jean Grey. The flame seeds roared out, instantly piercing through the fire phoenix and pouring into Jean Grey's body. This scene suddenly stunned everyone present. Scott was furious, and roared, "Bastard! Let go of that girl and stop me." Episode 42, "Let go of the piano for me." Seeing that Lin Fan didn't know what he had done, Scott was suddenly furious. He couldn't watch Jean being bullied by Lin Fan. Therefore, without hesitation, he rushed out in a flash, ready to stop Lin Fan from doing something shameful to Jean. "Scott, don't." Storm Girl and the others were shocked, and they wanted to stop it, but it was too late. Professor X was also shocked and panicked. By the time he reacted again, Scott had already rushed to the center of the battle, and his eyes burst with terrifying hot rays. And the target of his attack was Lin Fan in front of Jean Grey. It's over. For a moment, Professor X's heart was anxious. He knew Lin Fan's character very well, even if it was Obadestin, it was the master who said to kill and kill. Scott dared to provoke, how could it be better? For a while, he hated to scold Scott, the bastard. Jean's situation was not normal, and if Lin Fan had subdued, perhaps they would have been spared the threat of death. But Scott was good, did not help, but also caused Lin Fan to mess up. How many pounds or tails do you yourself not count the points? Humph. Not to mention the mood of Professor X and the others, Lin Fan snorted with disdain. He didn't even have the idea to cast his gaze. Under the shroud of the magnetic field around him, even Jean Grey may not be able to break it easily. What's more, a small laser eye. Whoosh. The high-temperature rays roared, directly isolated by the magnetic field, and burst into bursts of electric welding like fire. A burst of sparks with lightning, a look at the damage, does not break the defense at all. This immediately numbed the Scots. How could it be? Seeing that his attack was ineffective, he immediately repeated his technique. No matter what, he also wanted to stop Lin Fan's evil deeds. But at this moment, Professor X, who had already reacted, how could he allow him to continue to act arbitrarily? Scott, you get me back. Professor X burst into a rare foul language. A majestic spiritual power swept through, directly forcibly restraining Scott, and then pulling it back 100 meters away. Professor, what are you doing? I'm going to save Jean. Why did you stop me? Scott looked anxious and shouted at Professor X. Storm Girl and the others immediately shouted dissatisfied, Scott, pay attention to your attitude. You're going too far. Professor X said with a calm face and a look of disappointment, Jean's situation is very dangerous, now only Mr. Lin may help Jean, you are simply adding to the chaos. But Professor, that guy is very suspicious. Scott immediately retorted. Even if the piano is dangerous, why let an outsider make a move? Who knew what Lin Fan would do to Jean? What if it hurts Jean? Seeing that Professor X was so partial to Lin Fan, he was immediately even more dissatisfied, but he did not dare to say anything presumptuous. Enough, Scott. You disappointed me so much. Professor X was utterly disappointed when he heard this. This Scott is so reckless that he has lost the ability to think. He was already carried away by the jealousy and prejudice in his heart. He didn't bother to explain anything, he directly imprisoned the other party with spiritual power, lest Scott make unwise moves. Don't. Professor, let me go, I'm going to save Jean. Seeing this, Scott quickly begged. Storm Girl and the others were also unbearable. But in the face of the current situation, they did not even have the qualifications to participate in it except to watch. And Scott's actions are also death-seeking behaviors in their eyes. Didn't you see the combat power that Lin Fan broke out? Even the professor said that it is powerful, and you feel that the existence of jealousy, do you really think it is so good to get along with? Not to mention the infighting of Professor X and others. At this time, high in the air, Lin Fan trapped Jean Grey with a magnetic field. He directly punched the flame seed into Jean Grey's body. Without waiting for Jean Grey to react, he flashed to the front and put his big hand directly on the top of Jean Grey's head. Suddenly, the overlapping magnetic field collapsed infinitely, directly wrapping it in the middle. No matter how much Jean Grey struggled, she couldn't break free. Human, you look for death. Jean Grey's hoarse voice sounded, not at all human-like. This suddenly made Lin Fan feel slightly stunned. But then he didn't know what to think, and immediately separated the mind-sensing flame seed, and then saw an even more surprising scene. I saw that in Jean Grey's body, a monstrous flame enveloped the entire spiritual sea. Jean Grey's spiritual projection was wrapped in flames. Around the spirit projection, a dark red phoenix covered the sky, circling and flying around the Jean Grey. This means that Jean Grey's mind is suppressed. What controls Jean Grey's body now is just the power of the phoenix. Mortal. And dares to trespass? Sensing Lin Fan's prying eyes, the phoenix scolded angrily. He looked at the flame seed with trepidation. It was originally a cold vertical pupil, but at this moment, it showed a human look, which was thick shock and disbelief. And a hint of imperceptibility. Fear and fear? How can there be a second person in this world who has the power of a phoenix? And it's still a flame seed in its original form. How is this possible? But then he was ecstatic, and his eyes were full of greed. As long as he devours Lin Fan, he can grow again. When the time comes, take control of this human body, and the power of the phoenix will reappear in the human world, burning out the original sin of endless living beings. Episode 43, Huh? Facing the hostility of the phoenix, Lin Fan sneered. It's just a landing phoenix. Do you really think that the power of the phoenix is invincible? What's more, he also has the power of the phoenix. The residual thoughts of the power of the phoenix can only parasitize in Jean Grey's body for a long time. What qualifications do you have to fight against the power of the phoenix in his full form? Today I swallowed you and helped me grow. Not bothering to talk nonsense, Lin Fan's consciousness poured into the flame seed. He directly controlled the flame seeds to roar out. Even if this is the opponent's home turf at this time, in the face of the absolute strength gap, this landing phoenix has long been doomed. Mortal, you are looking for death. The phoenix roared, and the flames all over his body were terrifying. He stared at Lin Fan angrily. At this moment, in his eyes, that flame seed was Lin Fan's incarnation, and it was also the nourishment for his growth. The phoenix and the phoenix should be opposite sex attracted, but at this moment, they are not dead. Ugh. There was a long roar in the sky, and the wings of the phoenix flame vibrate. The terrifying power of the phoenix turned into flames and swept through. He wanted to wipe out Lin Fan's spirit, and then devour this complete flame seed to make up for the incompleteness of his origin. But alas, it backfired. Lin Fan also had the same idea, and naturally he would not let him succeed. That flame seed was wrapped in his majestic spiritual power. But seeing a surge of flame seeds, the raging phoenix power turned into a big hand that covered the sky, directly scattering the oncoming flames. How? How can it be? Seeing this scene, the phoenix suddenly changed color in shock. Lin Fan's strength was beyond imagination. But he couldn't accept how a mortal ant in a remote place could have such great strength. Lin Fan, who was regarded as nourishment by him, was actually a hideous tiger. Next, it's my turn. Looking at the phoenix coldly, Lin Fan made a decisive move. The big hand that covered the sky slammed down. In the phoenix's terrified gaze, its body was directly imprisoned, and then eroded and dissipated by the power of the phoenix. The flame seed turned into a black hole, frantically devouring the energy that escaped. This is the purest source of phoenix power. Although it is in a very incomplete state, it is a rare nutrient for seeds. And thanks to the mutilation. Otherwise, with the terrifying power of the phoenix, Lin Fan was really not sure of achieving the goal. Speaking of which, Jean Grey is really unlucky enough. Although the power of the phoenix is powerful, it has spiritual intelligence, and even wants to devour Jean Grey's soul. At that time, Jean Grey will cease to exist, and the dark phoenix will be born. The whole earth will also usher in a baptism of fire. Whoever harbors original sin will be judged by the power of the phoenix and burned in the flames of eternal immortality. Buzz. After some devouring, the flame seed grew sharply. In the roaring flames, the shadow of a phoenix faintly appeared, which was the embodiment of Lin Fan's spiritual consciousness. And that flame seed was also slowly condensed into Lin Fan's appearance. This means that the seed has taken root. Just waiting for Lin Fan's continuous nourishment, one day it will blossom and bear fruit, and the power of the primordial phoenix will be born. For your sake, I'll give you a creation. Looking at Jean Grey, who was shrouded in flames, Lin Fan casually popped out a spiritual light. That was a trace of origin that remained after destroying the phoenix. The negative emotions in it have been eliminated, and no matter who merges, the soul will be qualitatively transformed. But Lin Fan had the power of a complete phoenix, and he couldn't look at this scrap at all. Moreover, most of the benefits were received by him. The person Jean Grey was mentally injured, and he lost his wife and broke the army, and he was still embarrassed in his heart. Buzz. As the aura submerged into it, Jean Grey exuded a sense of power. The surrounding flames were slowly absorbed into the body. Although the amount of these remnants of the phoenix power is very small, it is also a very powerful force. At this time, he was instinctively absorbed by Jean Grey and restored his soul. And her body is also faintly dark red. Phoenix Nirvana, reborn from the ashes. Prompted by that spiritual light, the residual phoenix power slowly merged into Jean Grey's body, and then recondensed into a flame seed. Although it is far inferior to Lin Fan in all aspects, it is the prototype of the power of the phoenix after all. Maybe in the future, Jean Grey can cultivate his own phoenix power. Seeing this, Lin Fan couldn't help but feel a burst of surprise. It's really a lucky woman, I can only say that I really won't be the protagonist. At this moment, Jean Grey let out a low groan. It's like an unconscious murmur in your sleep. As all the flames were engulfed, Jean Grey slowly opened her eyes, and her gaze was opposite Lin Fan's eyes. At first, Jean Grey's eyes were still a little confused. The long slumber made her a little unclear. But as the memory picture in her mind flooded her mind, knowing everything before, she looked at Lin Fan again and was surprised. The man in front of him was strange and familiar, and he saved her with his own hands. Otherwise, she will definitely be devoured by the phoenix. Thinking of this situation, she felt a panic in her heart, and she looked at Lin Fan even more grateful. Ahem, what, are you sure you don't get dressed first? At this moment, Lin Fan coughed lightly and reminded. He glanced at him thoughtfully. Jean Grey, who was reborn from the ashes, was not covered in an inch at this time, and her figure was really amazing. Episode 44, Get Dressed? Hearing what Lin Fan said, Jean Grey was not clear at first. But when she lowered her head and took a look, all of a sudden, she was stupid. Ah! An ear-piercing scream rang out violently. With a spiritual storm, Lin Fan was almost overturned. Of course, it was just a joke. With the difference in strength between the two, it is useless for Jean Grey to occupy the home advantage. But Lin Fan was still troubled by Jean Grey's loud voice. Women are really troublesome. Lin Fan sighed secretly. Sure enough, that sentence was very correct. What a woman does will only affect the speed of my cultivation. There is no woman in the heart, cultivate the natural god. Just when Lin Fan was secretly slandering, Jean Grey was also a hindsight. She realized that she had just been reborn from the ashes, returning her body to its original state, that is, without an inch. This also caused her to be seen by Lin Fan. But people were her lifesavers, and she even had to say thank you. Jean Grey hurriedly moved her mind and added close to herself. With a red face and a strange glaring at Lin Fan, she hummed arrogantly in her heart. It took so long to remind me that sure enough, men are big pigs trotters. Bah, scumbag. Jean Grey was extremely embarrassed at this time. Facing Lin Fan, she felt very ashamed, but she couldn't attack. For a while, she didn't know what to say. When Lin Fan saw this, it was a serious way. What, the conditions I promised Professor X have been completed, they are all waiting for you outside, you should also hurry out and report to them for safety. After saying that, he didn't care about Jean Grey's reaction, he directly dissipated his consciousness himself. And that tinder also quietly left Jean Grey's body. Hey! Jean Grey originally wanted to stop Lin Fan. Although she didn't know why, she stopped Lin Fan and wanted to say something, but she somehow didn't want Lin Fan to leave just like that. From Lin Fan's body, she felt a very cordial feeling. It's like facing your own kind or even your loved ones. And staying by Lin Fan's side, she had a long-lost tranquility and peace, and even a full sense of security. This made her want to get close to Lin Fan, even if it was just to say 2 more words. It's a pity that Lin Fan didn't give her a chance to speak at all. Seeing Lin Fan leave, Jean Grey pouted in dissatisfaction, revealing a little girl's coquettish look. Even she didn't notice that she had a strange closeness to Lin Fan. At the same time, the outside world. Lin Fan's consciousness returned to his body and waved his hand to dispel the surrounding magnetic field cage. He fell to the ground with a magnetic field carrying Jean Grey. At this time, Jean Grey was still in a coma. Looking at Professor X and the others flying in the distance, he held Jean Grey with one hand and stood there with an indifferent expression. But he didn't react, but someone was the first to attack. Bastard! Let go of that girl, Scott, who rushed over, shouted. Seeing Jean Grey being held in Lin Fan's arms, and still unconscious, he was suddenly furious. This bastard actually hurt the piano and took advantage of the piano. The fire of jealousy in his eyes burned. If he didn't know that he couldn't beat Lin Fan, he hated to slaughter Lin Fan. Scott, you shut up for me. Professor X on the side had an extremely ugly face. Unlike Scott, who lost his mind, he could see at a glance that Jean's condition was obviously out of danger. While feeling relieved in his heart, he was even more shocked by Lin Fan's powerful strength. Unexpectedly, Lin Fan was able to solve the hidden dangers on the piano. You must know the power in the body of the piano, even he is not sure to solve it. Once it breaks out, the consequences will be ruinous. But Lin Fan didn't know what he had done to make Jean return to normal. This suddenly made him even more curious about Lin Fan's strength. He originally thought that Lin Fan could control the magnetic field, and it was likely that he had something to do with his old friend Eric. But now it turns out that Lin Fan is much stronger than Eric. Of course, it is also possible that the blue is better than the blue. It seems that Scott is not yet fit to inherit the academy. Glaring at Scott in disappointment, Professor X immediately looked at Lin Fan and said apologetically, "Mr. Lin, don't care, Scott has no intention of offending, and I hope you don't meet him in general." "Oh, it doesn't matter." Lin Fan smiled and waved his hand, unimpressed. He didn't even look at Scott. "But a guy who gets carried away by love, and has Rinjiaqin promised you?" Not bothering to pay attention to Scott's jealous gaze, he said indifferently, "The problem of Jean has been solved, I have overmade the agreement with you, I hope you will not disappoint me." "What? Solved?" Storm Girl and the others were in disbelief. It was so serious that it was said by the professor, but when it came to Lin Fan, it was solved lightly? Is this the professor exaggerating, or is Lin Fan deceiving people? For a while, Storm Girl and the others were a little shocked. Scott was even more skeptical. But as soon as he wanted to say something, he was directly glared back by Professor X. "Mr. Lin, please don't worry." Professor X's face couldn't contain his joy, and he sincerely assured, "You have helped us so much, as long as you come to the academy, I will definitely let those little guys teach us." Saying that, Professor X was slightly silent for a moment. "Maybe you're thinking about something." But soon he raised his head and said in a deep voice, "Of course if you need it, including me, I can find more mutants. For example, Magneto, Eric." Episode 45, Oh? Hearing this, Lin Fan suddenly became interested. He also made that request to try it out and see if he could trigger the system mechanism. Although it is uncertain whether it will succeed or not. But this did not affect his acceptance of the additional remuneration offered by Professor X. He didn't need to do anything about it anyway. The benefits of white do not go in vain. If this is triggered, the more mutants he is taught, the more system rewards he will get. And an X teaches Magneto, and the potential benefits are self-evident. As long as the system mechanism is successfully triggered, his strength will increase by leaps and bounds. Thinking of this, Lin Fan smiled and bowed his head and said, "Then thank you, Professor." "It should." Professor X smiled and waved his hand. Looking at Lin Fan's appearance, he was obviously very satisfied, which made him breathe a sigh of relief. After all, this is the condition they negotiated before. It's a pity that his little abacus doesn't seem to have worked, and Lin Fan has no reaction to Magneto. Perhaps there is indeed no relationship between Lin Fan and Magneto. At this moment, a low groan suddenly sounded. Jean Gallet and Lin Fan's arms woke up. In fact, she had woken up a long time ago, but because of Scott, she never had a chance to open her eyes. Listening to Scott's shouting to Lin Fan, she inexplicably felt very resistant. She used to think that Scott was quite good. As partners and even comrades in arms, they were born and died together, and Scott helped her many times. But she didn't expect Scott to be so reckless and impulsive. It was clear that Lin Fan was her lifesaver. As a result, when it came to Scott's mouth, Lin Fan was like some kind of big evil. "Jean, are you awake?" "This is wonderful." Seeing Jean wake up, Scott was overjoyed. Storm Girl and the others also breathed a sigh of relief. In any case, they were genuinely happy to see that Jean was safe and sound. "Well, I worry you." Feeling the concern of her companions, Jean's heart warmed. She nodded at Professor X and the others. But for Scott, she just nodded politely as if she didn't see it. This suddenly made Scott's heart sink, and a smile stiffened on his face. Can you let me go?" Feeling Lin Fan's warm embrace, Jean reluctantly whispered. Although she was very reluctant to feel this warm feeling. But there were Professor X and others present. In front of these partners and elders, her pretty face turned slightly red, as if she had been caught in love. Lin Fan didn't know what Jean Gallet thought. Otherwise, he will surely say, "Slander, she slandered me." He very obediently withdrew Jean Grey from his arms. And feeling Lin Fan's resistance, Jean Gallet suddenly felt full of resentment in her heart, thinking that Lin Fan hated herself so much. But helplessly, she finally left Lin Fan's embrace. And she looked at Lin Fan with a hint of resentment in her eyes. "Huh?" Seeing this, Lin Fan was a little confused. What look does this woman have? Although the other party is Jean Grey, how to behave strangely, shouldn't it be a brain burning? It seems that the ability to regenerate from the ashes is better not to use in the future. Does the devil know what unknown hidden dangers are in the power of the Phoenix? Directly ignoring Jean Grey's expression, he said indifferently, "Guys, then I'll leave first. I will be heading to Xavier Genius Academy in 3 days." Saying that, Lin Fan's figure flashed, and he flew directly out of thin air. He disappeared at the end of the sky in an instant. Jean Gallet looked at Lin Fan's back, her mouth opened, but she didn't say a word. In fact, she just wanted to say thank you to Lin Fan in person. It's a pity that she didn't even have a chance to say thank you. "Jean, how are you feeling?" Professor X asked, looking at Jean Grey with concern. Although he couldn't feel the dangerous power, he still had to ask clearly about Jean Grey's situation. And for what Lin Fan did, he was actually very curious in his heart. However, he will not take the initiative to pry into the privacy belonging to Lin Fan and Jean. Unless Jean took the initiative to talk about their experience. I'm fine, Professor. Jean Grey smiled and said a little embarrassed, I'm sorry, Professor, for worrying you personally. It's okay, Jean. Without waiting for Professor X to speak, Scott waved his hand. But you saved us before, it's great to see that you're okay, that guy didn't do anything to you, did it? Scott said, looking indignant. Obviously, he was still worried about Lin Fan. But Jean frowned when she heard this, and said in a slightly deep voice, I'm fine, thank you. Saying that, she didn't bother to pay attention to Scott. This guy is really enough, he actually slandered Lin Fan behind his back, you know, but Lin Fan saved her. She couldn't understand why Scott was so prejudiced against Lin Fan. I didn't see that the professor and the others were very grateful to Lin Fan. That's right, Professor. Thinking of what Lin Fan said just now, Jean Grey asked curiously, what are you talking about? Is it about me? Is there anything I can do? Lin Fan just said that he would go to their academy in 3 days. And also say what deals, and so on. Thinking of her own situation, she roughly guessed something, and her mood was inexplicably better. I was really looking forward to seeing Lin Fan again in 3 days. Episode 46, It's So. In the face of Jean Grey's curiosity, Professor X did not hide it, and directly explained it. He roughly talked about the deal with Lin Fan. When Jean Grey heard this, she muttered, in a low voice, learner superpower? That guy is so strange, can he still replicate the ability of others? Okay, Jean. Professor X looked at the mess around him and quickly said in a deep voice, it's an accident, let's hurry back first, and then talk about the rest. Yes, Professor. Meanwhile, far away where Carmitage is. Gooey Master sat in the tea room. The aroma of tea lingers in the room, giving people a sense of calming the mind and calming the restless emotions in people's hearts. I didn't expect that under the whole world, a second phoenix power could be born. Suddenly, the ancient mage murmured secretly. Her face was originally Furue Wubwa, and she also showed surprise, even shock. As a supreme mage, she knew the power of the phoenix very well. And now the second phoenix power host has been born. Even compared to the first person, the phoenix power awakened by that little guy has unimaginable potential. Once the power of the phoenix grows to its peak, even she is no more than an ant. When such variables appear, I don't know whether they are good or bad. Buzz. The gemstone on the chest of the ancient mage shimmered. That's the Eye of Agamotto. The inheritance relics of the supreme mages of the past have incredible power, and even allow people to observe the river of time. At this time, the gem flickered, and the power of time quietly enveloped the ancient mage. Her mind wanders through an endless river of time. But about Lin Fan's existence, it was like a fog, no matter how she observed, she couldn't spy on it. But what was supposed to be a hopeless future has taken a new turn. It's a pity that even she can't spy on it. What a strange little fellow. Sighing secretly, the ancient mage converged his body. A strange look flashed in her eyes. But after some deep groaning, she still gave up the idea of finding Lin Fan, at least now was not the time. Looking at the endless void, the ancient mage whispered, Lin Fan, I hope you can bring hope to this world. At the same time. Inside Tony Stark Manor. Lin Fan, who did not know that he was paid attention to by the ancient mage and even spied on his fate, finally returned as a servant of the dust. As soon as he returned, he was pulled by Tony for interrogation. Speak quickly. Who are you dating today? Tony and Banner stood side by side, condescendingly examining Lin Fan, who was sitting there. But the teasing look on Tony's face couldn't be hidden. He interrogated in a serious manner. I asked Pepper that Natasha also took a leave of absence today, and you didn't go to the company. You're going for most of the day, shouldn't you? Gee, I didn't see it. Saying that, Tony couldn't hold back any longer, the corners of his mouth raised teasingly. I didn't expect, Lin Fan, your combat effectiveness is so strong, compared to me back then, it's only so much worse than I was back then, you say, Banner? Hearing that they were Q, the Banner people were dumbfounded. I'm single, you ask me? How long did you play high pie yourself, didn't you have a point in your heart? Besides, your pretense is too disgusting. Although I had a rich and beautiful girlfriend, before I could communicate in depth, I was chased and killed by my father all over the world. Now that the two of you are comparing each other, have you considered how pure affection is like mine? Ahem. Seeing that his teammates did not cooperate, Tony coughed lightly. He patted Lin Fan's shoulder and said, Lin Fan, it's not me who said you, although you have superpowers, young people should be temperate. You two give me enough time. Lin Fan, who realized it later, rolled his eyes. He kind of heard it. The two of them just watched him leave for a long time, plus Natasha took leave at the same time, which reminded me of some plots that shouldn't be. If it weren't for the trial, he would have had to come to the previous paragraph no matter what he said. But in fact, he really didn't do anything. How can you slander honest people? Moreover, if men and women are in agreement, even if they do something shy, it is very reasonable, right? I just went to Lake Akali. Saying lightly, Lin Fan directly got up and pushed the two away. He brewed himself tea. On the contrary, Tony and Banner, hearing what Lin Fan said, immediately showed a curious look. Lake Akali? Isn't it a military restricted zone? Maybe Banner didn't know, but Tony knew about Lake Akali. It was actually a private restricted area belonging to the military. Although there are places to visit around Lake Akali, they are expelled by military personnel if they come into contact with dangerous areas. And not long ago, the dam at Lake Akali collapsed. Hundreds of millions of tons of water storage even set off a major flood. At the time, it was also published in the New York Daily News, and officials said that the dam was damaged, which did not attract much attention. At this time, hearing Lin Fan heading to Akali Lake, Tony suddenly noticed the clue. Is there anything hidden in this? Episode 47, Lake Akali? Tony walked to Lin Fan's side, took a cup of tea, and said curiously, "Where are you going? Shouldn't it be trouble with the military?" He said this first curiosity and second temptation. If Lin Fan agreed, it meant that the other party knew about the existence of the military, and he was going for the military. But Lin Fan just glanced at him and said lightly, "I was really interested in Stryker's research. It's just a pity." Hearing this, Tony was suddenly dumbfounded. "Boy. I call the good guys. I just asked, but I didn't expect you to come for real. Are you sure that the military is so easy to provoke?" Even listening to the meaning of Lin Fan's words, he obviously knew a lot of inside information, and even wanted to step in. A fierce man who dares to provoke the military, Lin Fan is really a high-ranking artist. Even Banner, who watched the play silently, was stunned. Is this lifesaver himself so violent? Thinking of his own tragic experience, and then looking at Lin Fan, he did not put the so-called military in his eyes at all. Isn't this Gap? Brother, are you really coming? Tony forced down the shock in his heart and warned in a deep voice, "Although you are very strong, the military is not a good match. I think it is better for you not to fight the military." After this time of getting along, the two can barely be regarded as friends. So Tony didn't want to see Lin Fan have an accident. If it was someone else, he didn't even bother to pay attention to it except for a sneer. The military is strong. Banner silently added a personal sentence. Uh-huh. Lin Fan nodded and was non-committal. He took a sip of the tea in his cup. But seeing the solemnity on Tony's face, he shrugged and said, "What are you worried about? I just said I was interested, and I didn't say I had to do something." "And do you think I'm someone who likes to do things?" Lin Fan asked with a harmless look. "Yes." Tony and Banner nodded in agreement. "You killed my good uncle without saying a word. You call this harmless to humans and animals? Who dares to save people from under the military?" Thinking of their own experience, the two did not hesitate to give an answer, and they coincided. The two looked at each other and smiled, toasting each other's tacit understanding on the spot. It seems that the hero sees the same thing. Tony tugged on the newly learned Chinese idiom and shook his head. Lin Fan, tired, destroy, hurry. Ha ha ha. Seeing Lin Fan deflated, Tony couldn't help but laugh out loud. Banner couldn't help but be handsome. Lin Fan had always been synonymous with mystery in their eyes, and he was a very powerful superpower. But at this moment, through a joke, the relationship between them was quickly pulled in. Lin Fan was no longer that awesome superpower. Just be happy. Rolling his eyes at Tony, Lin Fan shrugged indifferently. This guy's mouth is notoriously stinking. However, although he has a bad personality, if you really know Tony, you will know that he is a good person. At the very least, for friends, Tony is definitely qualified. Don't just talk about me, what about you? Without continuing the previous topic, Lin Fan asked rhetorically and said, "Why do you have the leisure to come out and drink? Could it be that the design drawings of the nano warframe have already come out?" "Of course." Tony suddenly became interested when he heard this. He and Banner looked at each other, and then said with a smug look, "Don't look at who I am, I'm the famous genius inventor Tony Stark. Isn't it easy to design a nano armor?" "Huh, so?" Lin Fan sneered, and directly debunked and said, "Would you have been able to design it without my nanotechnology, without Banner's help?" "Ah." The smug look on Tony's face stiffened. He was inexplicably a little weak-hearted, but he still said hardly, "Although, even without you, I can develop the nano armor by myself. You just helped me speed up by hundreds of millions of points." You look ugly, you're right." Lin Fan chuckled and was non-committal. But his playful gaze only made Tony almost break his defense. Banner watched silently, not daring to make any sound. One of these two has a high status and the other has strong strength, and he is still a good audience silently. He was shocked by the relationship between the two. The person who can fight with Tony Stark without being kicked out, I'm afraid that there is only Lin Fan in this world, right? I don't tell you, you outsiders don't understand the matter of scientific research. Tony said with a hard mouth, and directly got up and told Banner to leave. He made up his mind to manufacture the finished product as soon as possible. When he put on the nano armor and let Lin Fan see it, then see who is tough. Hey, no. No matter how powerful the nano armor is, isn't it still a metal creation? And Lin Fan's ability is to control the magnetic field. So unless he created a battle armor without any metal, he wouldn't even want to raise his head in front of Lin Fan in this life. Tired, destroy. Hurry. As soon as he thought of this, Tony suddenly lost all motivation. The whole person was also depressed. Banner, who followed next to him, saw that Tony went from full of motivation to no fighting spirit, and it only took a few seconds. While secretly slandering in his heart, he did not understand what was happening. Shouldn't it have been hit by Lin Fan's words? It seems that you must not fight with Lin Fan in the future, otherwise Tony will be the end. Wait a minute, Banner. Seeing the two walking away, Lin Fan stopped Banner. Episode 48, Banner paused. He turned around a little weakly and asked, "What, is there something going on with Mr. Lin?" Tony also turned around curiously. Although he was hit by Lin Fan again, he was still quite curious about Lin Fan's sudden call to Banner. "Have you forgotten what I promised you and the Hulk?" Lin Fan said with a smile. "What?" Hearing this, Banner exclaimed. Tony was also amazed. Regarding the situation of Banner and Hulk, after Lin Fan's explanation, he also had a general understanding. He was very curious about this split personality situation, but could not do anything about it. But at this time, Lin Fan seemed to be able to solve it? How is this possible? Obviously you couldn't do it before. How to go out and suddenly there is a way to solve it? Does it have something to do with Lake Akali? Or the military? Not to mention the suspicions in Tony's heart, Banner asked excitedly, "Can you help us, Mr. Lin?" "Of course." Lin Fan nodded with a smile and said lightly, "Originally, there was no way, but I just recently learned a new ability, which happened to be for the soul aspect." New abilities? Just learned? Hearing this, Banner and Tony were dumbfounded. Are you superpowers so cheating? Just go out and spin around and learn new abilities, and they are also aimed at souls. This ability is very unclear when you hear it, okay? And it stands to reason that the abilities of superpowers come from genetic variation. It's like the birth of the Hulk. But Lin Fan obviously already has magnetic control, how did he obtain the second ability? Or maybe Lin Fan is not a genetic mutation superpower at all. Tony couldn't help but think that Lin Fan was a Chinese. In that magical country in Huaxia, there are kung fu, and even the legendary Qi training immortals. Could it be that Lin Fan was one of them? Please help me, Mr. Lin. Banner endured the shock and begged sincerely. He looked at Lin Fan with blank eyes. And Lin Fan did not refuse, let Banner sit back on the sofa, and said indifferently, "It may hurt a little next, but I'm fast, you bear with it. Lin Fan, you won't be in any danger here, right? Jarvis, activate the security precaution." Seeing that Lin Fan had no protective measures, Tony couldn't help but worry. His living room cost a lot of money. If this was finished by Hulk Ho-Ho, it would be troublesome to renovate, and he immediately asked Jarvis to start the security state. Once there is an accident, Jarvis will strike as soon as possible. Don't be nervous, Tony. Lin Fan shook his head helplessly and did not explain. If it had been before, he might not have been able to do so. After all, when it comes to souls, he was really helpless at that time, but now the situation is different. Times have changed, my lord. Obtained the talent of the power of the Phoenix, and his strength increased by more than 1.5 stars. The most important thing is that the power of the Phoenix is a spiritual power. The power of the Phoenix in its peak state can radiate the multiverse with a single thought, burning the original sin in the hearts of hundreds of millions of living beings. The only problem with the Hulk is that he is easy to get on his head, that is, get carried away by anger. But in fact, anger should be the nourishment for the Hulk to become stronger. And what he has to do now is to remove the side effects on the Hulk's soul and retain the effect of anger becoming stronger. At the same time, for Banner and Hulk, he also wants to keep the two coexisting. For example, Banner can have the power of the Hulk in human form. And the Hulk can also be in Hulk form, with Banner's calm and intelligence, instead of being reduced to an angry fighting machine. I'm coming, you bear with me. Lin Fan said and snapped his fingers directly. The power of the Phoenix quietly emerged. Under the gaze of Banner and Tony, a wisp of fire emerged out of thin air, dripping and circling. A heat wave rushed in, exuding a supreme aura. But Lin Fan deliberately converged the coercion of the power of the Phoenix. so much so that Banner and Tony were not affected in any way. Under the gaze of the two, Lin Fan directly punched the fire into Banner's body, and in an instant he came to the spirit sea. At this time, Lin Fan's mind was attached to it, sensing everything in the spiritual sea. I saw that the Hulk in the sea of spirit was silently sleeping. Because it was Banner who controlled the body at this time, the Hulk personality was suppressed and could only fall into a long sleep. It's no wonder Hulk hates Banner. After all, as long as Banner exists, he can only lose his freedom permanently. And what Lin Fan has to do is to change this unfairness. Roar. Perhaps sensing the threat, Hulk jerked his eyes open. He stood up abruptly. Blood-colored eyes looked directly at where Lin Fan was, and he roared violently, as if he saw a natural enemy. The flame seemed like a candle in the wind, but it emitted a terrifying aura. The Hulk instinctively felt a fear of death. Don't be nervous, Hulk. At this moment, Lin Fan's indifferent voice sounded. It's me, Lin Fan, I'm here to help you. Lin Fan. When Hulk heard this, he was suddenly shocked. Isn't Lin Fan human? But this flame in front of me doesn't look like a human being. Could it be that some Diao Min wanted to murder him? Episode 49, Don't be stunned. Seeing that Hulk still had doubts, Lin Fan said helplessly, This is one of my abilities, I am mentally attached to the flame at this time, otherwise how do you think I can see you in Banner's head? Knowing that Hulk's ability to understand is limited, he said it very bluntly. And the Hulk also came back to his senses after realizing it. As Lin Fan said. When Banner was awake, he fell into a deep sleep most of the time, and even if he woke up, he could only be trapped here. Although the spiritual space is boundless, it is empty. This feeling of being imprisoned for freedom drove him crazy. Coupled with the flaws in his soul, he became more and more angry and disgusted with Banner. Looking at Lin Fan at this time, he suddenly shouted excitedly, Lin Fan, help me. Please, don't get excited. Lin Fan's chuckled voice sounded. There is no nonsense, he said bluntly, my flame is very powerful, it can target the soul, eliminate the defects in your soul, and can keep you awake. Then you will be able to live peacefully with Banner instead of falling into a deep sleep. But don't forget what you promised me. Banner is willing to accept you, and don't continue to reject Banner, you must live in peace. Understand? Although it could solve the problem, Lin Fan emphasized it again. He didn't want the Hulk to be cheap and sell well. An obedient subordinate or friend is obviously much better than an anti-bone boy. When Hulk heard this, he agreed without hesitation. Not to mention that Lin Fan is strong. Just because Lin Fan had helped him so much, he was very grateful to Lin Fan, and naturally, he would not backtrack. Even in his heart, Lin Fan was the best person for him. Then you bear with me, I'm coming. Lin Fan reminded, directly controlling the flames to roar out. A cloud of fire instantly turned into a monstrous flame. Under the astonished gaze of the Hulk, the flames directly enveloped his entire person, and wisps of flames drilled into the Hulk's body. Roar? The sudden strange appearance made the Hulk shocked. Could it be that Lin Fan really wanted to murder him? But soon Hulk resisted not calling out. Since Lin Fan had said it, of course, he believed it unconditionally, and he was even faintly excited. And under the burning of the power of the phoenix, dead black chi surged out. But in an instant, it was burned out by the flames. As the black chi continued to emerge, Hulk only felt refreshed, as if some kind of confinement in his body had been broken. Roar, roar. He roared angrily, exuding terrifying power all over his body. And in the outside world, Banner also felt something. Under Tony's shocked gaze, Banner's skin turned green, as if it was about to mutate. Generous gift crab. There wouldn't be any danger in this, would it? Tony quickly looked at Lin Fan and asked. Don't worry. Lin Fan waved his hand and said indifferently, it's settled. Hearing this, Tony people were dumbfounded. Are you so fast? You said it was so serious before, but now it's only 3 minutes, and you're done? And look at Banner's appearance, where is it like a nobody? Roar. Banner roared, his body expanding rapidly. The clothes on the body were directly torn. This is Hulk regaining freedom, and some can't control it, subconsciously want to seize control of the body. Banner is an honest man, how can he grab the powerful Hulk? Hulk, give me back. Seeing that the living room could not hold the Hulk, Lin Fan said indifferently. And almost at the same time, Hulk's body shook. Ben was ecstatic, and he immediately converged his emotions. Without his snatch, Banner regained control of his body and gradually returned to human form. He slumped directly on the sofa, his chest heaving violently. Phew. Call. After some calming down, Banner had palpitations. He looked at Lin Fan worriedly and said, Mr. Lin, this. At this point, Banner was terrified. You must know that before this, the Hulk has never actively seized control of the body. Usually he came out to the rescue after he was unconscious. But not now. The Hulk took the initiative to seize control of his body, but he was powerless to resist and could only watch it all. He suddenly became frightened in his heart, worried that he would be completely suppressed by the Hulk. Doesn't that mean that he will become a vassal of the Hulk in the future? Don't worry, Banner. Lin Fan patted Banner's shoulder and explained indifferently, I've helped Hulk eliminate the hidden danger of being carried away by anger, and he will be very sensible in the future. But Hulk is not deeply involved in the world, and you still need to guide him. And I also promised the Hulk that you can borrow each other's abilities and have the right to freely dispose of your bodies fairly. Of course, if there is any privacy inconvenience, you can also put the Hulk into a deep sleep. Saying that, Lin Fan showed a hint of ridicule. Tony on the side was shocked, but also couldn't help laughing. How about I arrange a celebration for you? Hearing this, Banner was suddenly speechless. We're honest people. Looking for mistress behind his back with his girlfriend, he will definitely not take the initiative, unless it is forced. Episode 50, I have to say that Banner was really moved. But thinking of his little girlfriend Betty, the love between the two was unswerving, and in the end he held back. And for the current situation, he can also be regarded as relieved. What he worries most about is that Hulk will hurt the people around him. Now that the Hulk won't suddenly go crazy, he can finally feel at ease. And Lin Fan said it. In the future, if he needs to, he can borrow the Hulk's ability at any time, so doesn't that mean that he can directly incarnate Superman? Having seen Lin Fan's strength, he also gave birth to a thirst for strength. At the very least, you don't have to worry about being chased and killed like a dog that lost their family. As for the price to pay? Being able to live peacefully with a Hulk and give up some free time to control his body is completely acceptable to him. I just hope Hulk doesn't come up with any idea of finding a girlfriend. Otherwise, the devil knows what type he likes. If only humans were okay. If it's something else weird, nope? Absolutely not. Banner quickly curbed back some thoughts that he shouldn't. At the same time, he also made up his mind that he must guide Hulk's concept as Lin Fan said. Definitely not to be a rebellious child. Thank you, Mr. Lin. The big stone in his heart finally fell, and Banner was grateful. He couldn't help but think of the embarrassment of the past. If it weren't for Lin Fan, I'm afraid he would still be fleeing aimlessly, and he would be in panic. Haha, we are also friends, don't be so polite. Lin Fan smiled and patted Banner's shoulder. Tony also brought 3 glasses of wine and raised his glass. I felt the need for a pool party, who agreed? Who refuses? I can't wait. Lin Fan took the wine glass and nodded with a smile. Benerio hesitated and nodded, it's the same. Ha ha ha. The 3 looked at each other and smiled, toasted each other, and the tacit understanding was all silent. This gathering of men is not to be missed. Needless to say, the night of wandering wreckage. When he woke up the next day, Lin Fan pushed off the long legs that were hanging on his body and went directly into the bathroom to wash up. And by the time he came out, the 2 models had already left early. Lin Fan couldn't help but sigh that Tony was really familiar with the road. Do not take the initiative, do not refuse, do not be responsible. This wise quote is vividly interpreted in Tony. The life of a capitalist is really inhumane. Are Jarvis, Tony, and Banner up? Where is it now? Walking out of the room, Lin Fan asked into the air. Jarvis's icy mechanical voice sounded. The 2 gentlemen are still sleeping. Poof. At this moment, the whisper of the Red Queen suddenly sounded. She laughed in Lin Fan's earphones. Master, this guy is too mechanical, not cute at all, unlike me. Thank you, Jarvis. Lin Fan ignored Hong Ho's self-selling boast. With a word of thanks to Jarvis, he went straight to the kitchen and began to prepare breakfast for himself. 10 minutes later, simple omelette and white porridge are served on the table. Tony walked out sleepily. Early, Lin Fan, how was it last night? Happy no. Seeing Lin Fan, Tony suddenly became interested. He sneeringly bumped Lin Fan with his shoulder. Saying that, he also picked up an omelette and ate it without any image. Very good. Lin Fan rolled his eyes. Giving breakfast out, he made it again. Of course, he didn't forget Banners. After breakfast, the 3 of them went directly to the underground research room and began to prepare to officially build the nano armor. Is there anything you need my help with? Lin Fan looked at the renovated research room and asked with interest. That's too much. Tony nodded hurriedly when he heard this. I used the military's connections to get some vibranium, and you just helped us transform into nanometals. In this way, the overall performance of the warframe can be increased by at least 30%. Saying that, Tony looked very proud. You must know that vibranium is very rare and even priceless. Tens of thousands of knives a gram have been sold on the black market. Can he get a few pounds of vibranium, or is it thanks to his connections within the military? Didn't he look at Banner on the side envious? Just a vibranium? Is it a lot? Seeing Tony's pride, Lin Fan said indifferently, Isn't it vibranium? If I want it, how much is there are? Just blow it. Tony didn't believe it at all. He rolled his eyes. There are very few vibranium on the entire market, not even more than 100 caddies. How many more do you want? You think you have a vibranium vein? Then you're really right. Lin Fan nodded, without the slightest sense of being questioned. Instead, he shrugged his shoulders and said indifferently, some things are very deep, nature knows if you know, and you can't help what you don't know, and I don't bother to say. Lin Fan said, and couldn't help but think of Wakanda. There is really no end to vibranium there. If he had the chance, he would be able to walk to Wakanda and get some vibranium, by the way. And Wakanda is said to have the presence of the god of the Panthers. If you can deal with each other, maybe there will be a surprise. Impossible. When pigs fly, just as Lin Fan was secretly groaning, Tony shouted, vibranium is such a thing, it can have a few 100 pounds to the sky. If there is a vibranium vein, I will eat it directly.